interest I paid on this is purely deductible, that $15,000. So if I'm, whoops, sorry guys. If I'm in a 40% tax bracket and I have a $15,000 interest expense on a loan, I write that off on my taxes. I can save 40% or $6,000 a year. So I get my tax up for $6,000 a year. I claim it on my taxes, $6,000 a year for the next 10 years. That's $60,000 on top of my profit. What was my profit again? 350? $60,000 plus $350,000 of profit is $410,000. So let's go through the math on this, because if I'm going to do this, the first question I'm going to say is, well, what can I lose? What do I got to do to break even? How much risk am I really taking here? So the first thing is we know the $100,000 in the traditional way grew to, does anybody remember? Like 200 or something like that? 215, thank you. And, oh, I didn't even look at the real estate. And the $100,000 in the second option grew to 326. What does $100,000 in this one grow to? Same assumptions, 350, 410. So we coined this thing. We called it the Reese's peanut butter solution. Unfortunately, that's copyright infringement, so we called it the third option. Won a bunch of awards. It actually turns out to be a good strategy. The question is, if I borrow $300,000, what could I possibly lose? So we have to do some analysis, and we have to figure out, if I were to borrow $300,000 and pay 5% interest on it, that means it's costing me $15,000 a year. If I'm paying $15,000 a year in interest, then, and I'm in a 40% tax bracket, so I can write that off at $6,000, that means my net cost is $9,000. If I'm going to pay $9,000 on a $300,000 investment, then I have to make 3% to break even. If I make $9,000, I didn't make any money. I wasted my time. Companies do this all the time. Companies, what they do when they're creating wealth is they calculate what's called a weighted average cost of capital. What is my debt to equity ratio? What is my cost of my preferred shares? People don't do this. People don't treat themselves like companies and create a debt to equity ratio. People don't even buy one extra property. If you buy a property in Calgary and if you bought it 10 years ago, I will tell you, you are richer than if you didn't. But the middle classes don't buy more than one property. We don't buy a duplex. If you buy a duplex, you're upper middle class. You know anybody that 10 years ago that bought a 10-plex commercial properties? That's how you get to a certain level of wealth. You know, it doesn't matter where you go. You could be in India, Jakarta, China, Japan. You look at 10-year rolling averages. Anybody that's bought a 10-plex, the percent chance of success is 90% that they're multi-millionaires. Same as this strategy. It's actually 95%. What I like about this is it gives us a little bit more cash-rich and not asset-rich and cash-poor. Here's a couple of things. When you're setting up a plan, the mistake most people make, I already talked about it, is that everybody's trying to get from here, point A, income minus your expenses, assets minus your liabilities, to point B, which is basically 10, 20, 30 years from now. And we're working in this direction. We also know that 80% of people are going to end up middle class. And your advisor, and most advisors say, listen, you're going to get there, but you just got to take my advice. My advice, because it's worth so much, you got to pay $300 a trade to do that. You know, guys, I can log online right now if you guys want. I'll log online with my BlackBerry right now. I will open an account with E-Trade. I'll take out my credit card. I'll put 100 grand into that account. Then I'll open up another web browser. I will get another website. I'll get advice from Warren Buffett. And let's say Warren Buffett's telling me to buy trains or something. I'll put that $100,000 into that E-Trade account and trade that for $6 a trade. You're telling me I need advice? I need a plan. See, what happens is we don't plan for our money, and the plan can't be up here. The plan's got to be written. And to break a comfort zone, we need certain emotional attributes to be brought out. We need to feel angry. We need to make actual decisions. See, the problem is, if you remember, here's what happens. Even after we die, the money has got to be guarded. We've got to learn how to protect our money. Here's what happens in real life. If Fred is married to Wilma, and Fred dies, everything goes to Wilma. If Wilma dies, everything goes to Fred. If they both die, everything goes to Pebbles, right? This is the way most people's wills are written. This is the law. You know what happens? Remember how I started. I was speaking at senior centers on how to maximize your return on your fixed income investments. Fred dies, Wilma remarries Barney. And Barney has got a son from a previous marriage named Bam Bam. Well, who do you think dies? Wilma. Who do you think gets Fred's estate? Barney and Bam Bam. We have to look at more than just how do we create our money. We have to look at things like in our will, adding something called a capital beneficiary trust. That's our message, is that there is a new paradigm on how you create a certain level of wealth. It is tragic that people think they have 300 grand in their RSPs and they're okay. If you're making 100 grand a year, $300,000 in your RSPs is 3 years of income. And so our philosophy is that you need a written plan, and we really are convicted in that. You know, in that plan, I started when I first started. One of my biggest clients, he owns that. I don't know if anybody works downtown, but he owns that that hair salon. You know, they charge like $150 for a haircut. I don't know what the hell. So he charges $150 for a haircut. This guy had a lot of money with me, and I would visit him, and I would walk into that. I don't know if you guys have seen Bankers Hall. He's paying an astronomical amount of rent in Bankers Hall. He owns the biggest place on the main floor. Every time you walk by, I would see music, and there would be lineups, and there'd be people there, and it was just fantastic. He had like 30 hair or whatever he calls them working for him. And one day I get this phone call, and the call is, you know, Shafik, I want to cash out half my portfolio. And this is a significant amount of money. So I went, and I was like, okay, well, that sucks. I'm cashing out your money. I went and delivered the check personally. And I walked up to the guy, and I said, you know, I'm so sorry. Like, what's going on? And I walked in. His haircut place was empty. Empty. And I said, what's going on? He goes, well, Shafik, look across the street. And across the street from Bankers Hall, there's that, I won't say the name, but it rhymes with Duper Cuts. And so at Duper Cuts, across, there's a big lineup of people outside in the main hallway, and it's packed. And on the sign, what did they have? A big sign on the window saying $10 haircuts. So I said, I'm really sorry, man. Here's your check. Walked away. 3 months later, I get it all back, plus a bunch more. So I'm ecstatic, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's saved himself from bankruptcy. How did he do it? So I went out and visited the guy, you know, and it is back to the old. There's a lineup out front. There's people. There's music. It's wonderful. Everybody's all excited. He's dancing around in his own way, like he does. And I said, well, how'd you do it, man? And I looked at across the street, and the other competitor was going out of business. Cobwebs, doors closed, empty. And he goes, and I said, how did you do it to him? And he goes, you know what? Look at, you see that $10 sign in the window? Look at the sign in my window. So I walked around, and the sign on his window was, we fix $10 haircuts. Well, that's kind of what we do, guys. Our approach is strictly financial planning. One of the things we do is we fix $10 financial plans. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you guys got something out of it. You guys have a super day. Thank you.